It's very nice to see you all of. It's very nice to hope that all of you are listening to today's analysis, because this is our Indore paper, the topmost IIM that we aim for our placement, right? Okay, so let's start with reading comprehension here. So there's a very cute narrative about two dogs, right? Let's start with the first question here. So according to the passage, the English sparrow is quarrelsome, pugnacious, and it. Yeah, he has mentioned two of the qualities and he's asking us for the third one. Now, nothing about its usage has been discussed, or it receding, it taking waters in rural districts has been mentioned. But look at this. Yeah, it is mentioned about rural districts, but about it, when specifically it comes about English sparrow, you can see that. See, yeah, no more quarrelsome pugnacious species of a bird exists than English sparrow. It appropriates every available locality for nesting purposes, and our native species are driven to. Right. So along with these two, we have what is the third quality that is mentioned here, that it occupies whatever space it can find to bring up its young ones. Right. Yeah, so it's a direct one. We can go with option C here. Then the author had observed the dogs' interchange of ideas several times and felt that they communicated. Now look at this. Yeah, I have observed such behavior and have always discovered that they meant something of kind. There were no audible utterances, no visible gestures, yet there was an interchange of ideas. So interchange of ideas, which is communication, is happening how? It's happening with an understanding beyond words and sounds. It's not via inaudible, it's not via sounds inaudible, or with just their heads in close contiguity. Okay, they did do that at times, but the interchange of ideas, the communication is happening beyond words and sounds. Okay. Right, and third one is out, and the fourth option is out of context here. Next, the narrator observed that the two dogs, Pug and Jip, that belonged to the family, what did they do? You can see that they, yeah, it's not thought much about each other throughout the day. No, so you can see it's not throughout the day. It's they thought much of each other when romping together in the yard or foraging in the neighboring woods, not throughout the day. So it's not option A. Communicated with each other about everything. No, we don't know that. Roamed and foraged together in the yard. See, there is a very possible thing that you might have gone for that particular option. There is a very possible condition that you might have gone for that particular option, but look at this sentence here. They roamed together in the yard and foraged in the neighboring woods. They did not do the foraging in the yard. So 3 also cannot be your answer. Okay, only the fourth one, played with each other and hunted together. Okay, that is the only safe option here. Okay, all of them, they seem like all of them are mentioned in the passage, but no, only the fourth is the most appropriate answer here. Right. Next, the war between robins and sparrows ended when? Okay, when did it end? Look at this. Yeah, in the engagement referred to, the robins were getting better of sparrows, which the latter were not slow in perceiving. Instantly, the sparrows set up the wild, ear-piercing harangue for which they peculiarly noted, which more than a score of friends from immediately together with the yeah, so the war cry, the made by the sparrows, didn't only attract their friends, but it also did attract the friends of their enemies. So what happened? All the other birds of the neighborhood who flocked to the defense of their brethren. Okay, that means their respective brothers. Brethren is the plural of brothers, which are brothers for blood relation, brother and brethren for not for the brothers who are not related by blood. Okay, so the battle waged warm and fiercely for some minutes when the sparrows were forced to seek safety in retreat. Right, so the sparrows did not win here. So what happened here? The robins, the robins who were getting the better of two parties also got help from several other birds, and that way they have moved forward and at last they won. That is what we can infer from the last sentence. Okay, it's not just when the brethren of sparrows flock to buy, that's when it ended. Okay, that's when it ended. Even though C seems like a very close option, please note that when did it end? When the robins were getting the better of two and the sparrows had to seek shelter. Right? That is why. That is why it should be option D. Now, the cry of warning from a bird or animal is distinct enough for several species to interpret correctly. Okay, this is mentioned directly in the passage. Yeah, and there is a sort of a cry of warning, no matter from what bird or animal it emanates, it is understood by them all. Okay, yeah, it's also understood to know many sports, but here in this context, it is more about okay how the species are interpreting it. It's not about a or it's not about it's an expression of fear of humans. No. Right, next. The term lingua franca refers to language which is common for people with different native languages. This is a vocab question. Okay. Lingua franca is a common language that connects people across different lands who have different mother tongues. Next, we have one more passage here. Anger, the rage bait being used by many social media influencers and also the algorithms trying to trick us for better engagement, right? That's the passage about. Okay, so according to the author, rage bait works when the tech platforms deliberately supply distorted content for insane content that incentivizes hate. Why? See here. Uh, Yeah. Once tech platforms figured out how this kind of content spirals user engagement, the algorithms got tweaked to feed us more and more of the same, activating a diabolical incentive structure of hate. For greater user engagement, they have gone, they have tweaked their algorithms in such way that user engagement has increased. Next, the phrase a civilization battle could be best interpreted as a conflict that affects. Okay, look at this. See, when a civilizational battle comes into the picture, it's not about battle of classes within society as per the context we are speaking here, right? Or the outward forms of society of, you know, social beliefs and behaviors. A civilization battle, you might look at the last lines and you might think that we have to avoid them, we must fight against the atrophy of our attention and its capture by the most terrible types. Okay, it's our responsibility to regain our sense and sensibility. Yeah, because the author is talking about this is a civilization battle and we have to, it's our responsibility to regain our sense and sensibility. Okay, so here you might think that it's for a better type of society, but what is the question? The question is about what does it affect? Okay, a conflict that affects, it affects the existential foundations of a society. Okay, what does it affect? Yeah, it brings a new change Okay, it brings a new change and a better type of society, but what does it affect? It affects the existential foundations of society, and with that, we'll have a better type of society. We'll have a change, we'll have a better type of society. Okay, and a civilization what doesn't just affect the outward forms of social beliefs and behavior. Outward forms, no. Okay, it inherently affects. Okay, it inherently affects all the belief systems that we hold. It inherently affects the existential foundations, the belief systems we have developed as a society. That is what a civilization battle here refers. Right. Next. Yeah. Next one. The writer states all of the following except anger has no useful purpose as it has no outcome. No. Misuse of anger can negatively impact general well-being. Yes. Anger has been used by companies to gain monetary benefits. That's what he's trying to say about the user engagement and the tweaks in algorithm. Right. Constant anger has a function in certain situations. Constant anger has a function in certain situations. That anger or outrage, that sentence is there, right? So constant anger has a function here, okay, which is increasing the user engagement. That is why even that is mentioned, but anger has no useful purpose, it's not at all mentioned here, right? Yeah, now states all of the following except B. Okay, next, the author is of the opinion that, we can see here at last he is mentioning that, look at this. Yeah, reading responsible accounts of pollution, a terror attack, and election would give you food for thought. On social media, you would be targeted stuff doctor to send you to into troll mode, right? So what does the author think? He thinks that reading responsible media reports promotes the thoughtfulness. It now the rage bait problem can be addressed by. Now it's very clear, right? At last he mentions how if you block them, right? See, if you block the accounts that the most inflame you, you deprive them of your attention, you refuse to buy their hate, and also you will be affecting their algorithm, right? So that is how he's trying, that is how we can, that is how the problem can be addressed. Right, next, the reference to David and Goliath. Okay, so this is actually general awareness, is like a general knowledge you need to have for this question. So David and Goliath, it's a small story from Bible. Okay, David is a very small boy and Goliath is a very big monster. And even though it is a very big monster, David, keeps hitting the monster with a small stone in one particular spot, and somehow he defeats the monster. So it is a phrase that is generally used when the seemingly weak suddenly they seem to succeed, okay, in unequal fights. Okay, you can see that the weaker section has won because they used a particular strategy. Okay, a section which is perceived by majority of the people that it's very definitive, that their failure is very definitive and suddenly wins. In those situations, like obviously if a monster and a small boy fight, it's understood, it's assumed that the monster would win, right? But if the small boy wins in this context, the David in this context, we the people who use the algorithm, okay, if we try our best in the most strategic way possible, we can win. That's what the reference is about. Okay, so for now we are done with RC. Now we have vocab. Okay, so my roommate either hosts or attends party every other day. Okay, why? Because as she is very, if I say egregious, okay, if I say egregious, that means she is extremely bad. No, gregarious is a person who is very outgoing, who is very friendly, who is a social person. So it should be B. Okay, egregious means very bad, and garrulous is someone who is very talkative, and gracious is someone who is kind and compassionate. Okay, so you might think garrulous can also be a fit, but more than garrulous is a talkative person. A talkative person doesn't necessarily be a social person. Okay, if someone comes and talks, there will be people who generally won't go anywhere, but if someone comes and sits beside them and starts talking, they keep talking and talking and talking. So you can't say exactly that this is a social person, but who someone voluntarily attends all the events here and there, okay, connecting with people, they are gregarious, they are a social person. So this fits better for the context. Okay. Next, the journal published unverified details about the company's lack of business. So what would it be? And this report on business was calumnious. Okay, that means false and defamatory. Okay, let me write them for you. So egregious is very bad. Okay, garrulous is someone who is very talkative, and gregarious is a outgoing person, and gracious is a kind person, someone who is kind and compassionate. Calumnious means something that's false and defamatory. Right. So this would be your answer. A would be your answer because they were unverified details. And calamitous is something that is disastrous. Right. And then you know what's careless. Now, what is this callous? Callous is when someone has a cruel disregard for others. Okay. So your option would be A here. Now, 15th one. The philosophy professor confused his students with a complex ethical problem. Meera was the only one who understood it and gave a or an dash response. Okay, now look at the words here. All of them might seem new to you. Now, what is obsequious? Obsequious is someone who is eager to please. Okay, someone who is eager to please. Okay, okay. What is hirsute? Hirsute is actually a hairy person. No. Plausible. Plausible is reasonable. Plausible means reasonable. Didactic. What is didactic? It's like teaching morals, moralizing someone. Okay, that is didactic. So, as per the context, you can easily mark the answer once you know the meanings that it's plausible, that she gave a very reasonable response. Right, next, we had tried to keep Maya's birthday party as a surprise, but at the last minute, someone let the cat out of the bag. Okay, it's an idiomatic expression which means to reveal a secret by accident. That is why we go with that particular answer. Right. Next, when the young man's father had a heart attack, the whole family panicked. He was the only one who kept his head. Who kept his head. That is, he was calm in a difficult or dangerous situation. You might think got his cool also can fit in this context, but it's not the proper usage. You should say kept his cool. Okay, instead of got, you should say kept his cool and immediately call the ambulance. Okay, so that is why we'll go with D here. Right. Next, the rich businessman bought a luxury duplex apartment that must have cost him an arm and a leg. Again, a idiomatic expression which means it's very costly here. Right, next. While traveling on the highway, my car had a flat tire. To dash, it started to rain. I got drenched. So obviously, to make matters worse, right? He had a flat tire, and there was a heavy pour, and he got drenched. Okay, it's not perplex me. Perplex me is to confuse him further. Befuddle me is also to confuse him further. Add to my complexities. It's more like it's not complexities here. Complexities, they don't always mean a negative. They don't always come under a negative connotation. But to make matters worse is a clear indication of the negative tone. That is why it's a better fit here. Okay. Next. The college has now the college now has a creator to help students with their personal as well as academic challenge. Obviously it's counselor. I don't think there's too much explanation which is required here, right? Next. Although she has not been at her best this year, imagine that she should win this match against the reigning champion. No one would doubt her caliber as a sports person. So here the usage is wrong. Okay, here inverted conditional structure would come into the picture, which follows as should plus subject plus base verb. What is the base verb here? When. Okay, what is the subject here? She. So here inverted conditional is being used. Okay. So, should she win this match against the reigning champion? No one would ever doubt her caliber. Okay. Even though she's not been best this year, if she gets this win, then everyone would be really confident about her. No one would doubt her. Next. The judge has disposed himself from the case because of his prior association with the company. Right? So the judge has disposed himself. Now we have four different words here. So what is the meaning of recanted? Okay, recanted means I'll open a board. Yeah. So recanted means withdrew previously held behave publicly. Okay, withdrew to withdraw the previously held belief or statement, whatever. Okay, held statement publicly. Okay. Next we have refrain. Refrain is to stop oneself from doing something, right? Refrain is to stop. That's it. I think you know this. Refrain is to stop. And then we have recouped. Okay. And that means recovered from something that's lost. Okay. From something lost. Now we have accused. Right? Now recuse means remove oneself from an activity due to the conflict of interest. Okay, which perfectly fits here. Because if the judge knows them previously, so there can be a chance where his judgment could be biased because of his previous association with the company. Something due to conflict of interest. Okay. Okay. Next. Even as the team's diehard fans lost all hopes of a win, alone came the last batsman and surpassed them with three sixes in a row, leading the team to its victory. So obviously, you know that surpassed is not the proper fit here. It should be surprised. Okay, yellow. Okay, along came the last batsman and surprised the whole team. Next. Don't get mad at me. I did not invite 1,000 people to our wedding. All I did was creating a link and see now here ing form is used and here v2 form is used. Okay, and sended itself is wrong. Send and sent, right? The v2 form of send is sent. Anyway, so all he did was to create a link and send it. That's it. Both of them are to be stated in the same verb form. Okay. All I did was create the link and send it. Both of them have to be in their V1 forms. Next. Okay, so look at this para completion here. Writing has long been a primary tool for thinking. Dash. Okay, we have to fill this here with a sentence. The articulation of thought, a foundational human skill, risks atrophy due to the development of AI. That is, what is the meaning of atrophy? Atrophy is the loss of muscle. Okay, so here it is talking about our loss of our cognizance, right? Because it will affect our thinking capabilities if we keep relying on AI, right? Yeah, so risk as attribute due to the development of AI. Help from AI is a gentle, persistent pressure, removing idiosyncrasies and pushing writers towards a standardized, middle of the road voice. In a manner of speaking, the originality of the writer's voice is lost. Hence, the unique signature of writer is eroded by an algorithm. Right. For writers, the help provided by AI is essential for the formation of lucid thoughts. Hence, okay, yeah, that is option A. Sorry. Yeah. So hence the unique signature of writer is eroded by algorithm. So obviously we have to find a sentence. Okay, from this particular from this sentence, the articulation of thought is a fundamental human skill, but with AI, it's we are risking the atrophy, and also we are trying to find a sentence which reflects negatively on the AI, right? So if I look at option A, for writers, help provided by AI is essential. Now, this is talking positively about AI, right? Now, look at this sentence. Without human effort, however, difficult concepts cannot be easily communicated to the uh, reader. Hmm. Yeah, okay. This is a neutral sentence, but it's not talking about AI here. Okay, when the process is delegated to an outside agency, thinking itself becomes superficial, right? Thinking itself becomes superficial. Here, the outside agency is nothing but the AI. Okay, now this is talking about negatively. This is talking negatively about AI. Look at the last sentence. Thinking is a process expressed best by smooth, frictionless prose assisted by AI. Again, this is talking positively about AI. So no, only C is the one which is talking about how our thinking is becoming superficial. Superficial is something that is on the surface, not deep, because that is being taken by the outside agency, which is AI here. Okay. Next. Next. With access to content and streaming video platforms among Indian viewers increasing, producers and creators seem to be taking fewer risks. Streaming service subscribers in India have traditionally appreciated the craft acting, storytelling of some exceptional videos on platforms like Netflix and HBO, and then Dash. Okay, driven by algorithms and a tendency to replicate templates that have worked in the past, Indian streamers increasingly favor star-led shows and films that promise safety over experimentation. Hence, 2025 had fewer original standouts. Now, this is talking. Okay, this is it's a criticism, right? They are not standing out for the they are not producing the originals. Okay, they are heavily relying on the star-led shows. They are not going for experimentation, whereas this is like where they're praising OTT platforms for their you know how their craft, acting, and storytelling is being appreciated in platforms like Netflix and HBO. Right. So this is praising OTT, and in the second half, they are like criticizing that they are not going for experimentation. So now we have to find a sentence that is contrasting. Okay, that is contrasting. Now look at this. Now that smartphones are commonplace, viewing videos is no longer part of the shared and family time. Okay, this is a fact, but this is not related to the concept here. Like it's not related to the context here. Okay, we are not talking about the family time. We are talking about the content that is being produced over the OTT platforms. Right. Next, look at this. Since a large proportion of OTT viewers in India use smartphones to view videos, the content has been discerning. Discerning is like with a keen insight, with a good judgment. But this is not being the contrast that we are looking for. Okay. And third one is also something like that. Without discerning viewership, Indian producers have had to use social media to promote and sell their stories. um, No. Yet this past year, look at this yet. Okay, yet this past year, Indian producers have gravitated towards content that entertains a wider section of audience, even though their craft skill and storytelling is traditionally appreciated. Okay, but still the producers are not choosing experimentation. They are going for things that entertain a wider section of people. That is why they are going for star-led shows. Okay, star-led shows which has fewer risk. Comparatively, it has a fewer risk. Right. Next, tech companies are spending billions to build data centers that power AI systems for growth and security, but data centers consume huge amounts of electricity, which has raised the cost of electricity for those living near the data centers. Some tech giants are now saying that they will seek to pay not just for the energy its data centers use, but also to cover the costs of updating and adding necessary electricity grid. So what happens? We don't know about not all tech companies will be afford will be willing to afford. Okay, it's not about the anger of public, or government should bear the additional cost as AI will provide greater security. No, even this is introducing a new aspect. But look at D. This way, the additional cost will not be passed to the local consumers, which is the discussion here, right? So, cost of people living near the data centers, and some tech giants are saying that. So, what is being discussed here is being concluded in this sentence. The rest of the sentences are introducing a new concept like the affordability of companies, or the anger of public, or the government trying to pay the cost, should be paying the cost, and all that. But this is something which is related to the information given in the passage. It's not introducing a new thing. That's how we should be choosing the closing sentence of a paragraph. Because if I start introducing new ideas, then it can be either A or B or C. Right? If I start justifying the introduction of new idea in the last line of a paragraph, then I can choose any of the options. So that is why whenever you go for para completions, you have to look at the option which contains the information present in the para, and something that's not introducing any new idea. Okay. Next, till recently, weight loss drugs have been privilege, creating a class system among those battling obesity. Right? Yeah, among those. Yeah, battling obesity and diabetes and setting new aspirational benchmarks for healthy life. Manufacturers have now lowered their price to tap into the booming health conscious market in India. Despite repeated clarification that efficacy of the drug is codependent on diet, lifestyle corrections, fitness routines, and most importantly, baseline fitness and health, the drug is seen as manna from heaven. Now, what is manna from heaven? Manna from heaven is like a sudden fortune that you receive when you are in a very difficult situation. Okay, it's the fortune that you're trying, like, how the gold coins just rain on you when you don't have money. That is like manna from heaven. Okay, this leads to the individual surrendering to false sense of being. Right now, we have to put a sentence here. So, obviously, look at the second sentence. Uh, Yeah, so the once a week jab, that is the injection, that is the injection of drug. The once a week jab, seen as a convenience, obviating the need for any other action. Here, the other actions are discussed, which is their diet, their lifestyle, okay, their overall health. But they are saying that if we just take this medicine, it's okay. We can just obviate the need. That is, we can refuse to have the other things. We can just eliminate it. We can just take a jab, right? So that is why this leads to a false sense of well-being. Okay, we can. There is no need to exercise. There is no need to maintain a healthy diet. We can just take this medicine and be slim. So yeah, B perfectly fits the context here. Um, So if you look at all the rest of the weight loss drugs have allowed celebrities to parade their thin, and this leads to, okay, this doesn't lead to any of this. If you look at this sentence, this leads to, if you put A, C, or D, okay, it doesn't lead to the false sense of well-being. Right, now let's look at some vocab here. Okay okay credulity. First, know the meanings here. Okay, credulity means when you believe something very easily. Okay, groundlessness, sorry, being groundless is something that is baseless and objective, right? Something that is factual, something that is not just subjective, something that doesn't depend on the perspective, but it is an actual fact. Like, you know Hyderabad is the capital of Telangana. That is an actual fact. 1 plus 1 is 2. That's an actual fact. But if I say money brings happiness, that becomes subjective. That differs from person to person. So something that is objective. Right now, hysteria is when you have an extreme emotional excitement. That is your hysteria. And jingoistic means extreme patriarchy. Like sometimes it might be harmful even to others. Okay, that is your jingoistic. And what is logical, like something that's reasonable. Credibility is when you can believe the other person. What is faulty and possible. Indifference is when you don't show any kind of interest towards a particular person or a thing. That is your indifference. And you understand what is strong and what is obvious, right? So look at the context here. The dash of uneducated masses can be described as the dash faith that believes in fake godmen based on the instincts or emotion rather than on any objective premise, rather than on any logical premise, obvious premise, possible premise. Okay, all of them seem to we can come here. But look at this, the dash of the uneducated people, the credulity. Okay, easily believing easily. Okay, you can't say hysteria or indifference. If indifference comes into the picture, then this doesn't make sense. Okay, credibility is when you can rely on the other person. Okay, so really, it's not about relying on uneducated masses, but the uneducated masses relying on the godmen here. Okay, believing them. Okay, can be described as a baseless faith. Yeah, groundless faith that believes in the fake godmen, based on instinct or emotion rather than any objective premise. Right. Next, even as technology threatens to alter medicine dash, doctors work with the conviction that they are dash in matters of prognosis and treatment. History, however, shows that those invested in their own dash are rarely the best judges of their own irreplaceability. Now, look at the meanings here. Unimaginably is something that you can't imagine. Immutable means unchanging over time. Okay, immutable means unchanging over time. And subculture means a culture within the culture. That is subculture. Irrevocably means something that is permanent, something that cannot be reversed. That is your indispensable is something that's absolutely necessary, something that you cannot just dispose of. It should be there. You know what is survival? Incredible is something that's unbelievable. It's that extraordinary. Reliable is when you can depend on someone. You know what's concerns. Okay, and opportunistic is taking advantage of a situation or a person selfishly for a selfish reason. That is being opportunistic. So as per these meanings, you can see that 2 fits good here. Option B fits good here. Even as technology threatens to alter medicine irrevocably, that is irreversibly, doctors work with conviction that they are indispensable, that they are absolutely necessary in matters of prognosis and treatment. History, however, shows that those most invested in their own survival are rarely the best judges of their own irreplaceability. Right? Yeah, so this fits the context. You can go with that. Next, the newly appointed professor found it hard to dash the students who were dash and dash to the topics discussed during the lectures. Now, you know what is to inspire, and belligerent means aggressive. Okay, belligerent means aggressive. Uninstructed is not educated. Okay, something that's not taught, that is uninstructed. Enthuse is to fill someone with enthusiasm, to fill someone with excitement, that is enthuse. Right, difficult, undisciplined, engaged, efficient. Now, diffident means shy or lacking confidence. Okay, diffident means shy or lacking confidence. You understand, encouraged, withdrawn, and indifferent. Right, we just discussed indifference means not showing any kind of interest. Right. So look at this option D. Okay, the newly appointed professor found it hard to encourage the students who were withdrawn and were indifferent to the topics being discussed during the lectures. That is, they were not showing any kind of interest in them. Next, a useful definition of anger can be found in Aristotle, which also which is also the starting point for an established Western dash of reflection. Here, anger is a response to dash damage to something or someone who someone cares about, and the damage that angry person believes to have been dash inflicted. Right. So you understand philosophy. Consequential is something that has consequence. Unsuspecting is when you don't suspect. You know what's habit. Willful is to be deliberate, and you know erroneously is incorrectly. Uncanny is uncannily is like in a strangely accurate way, in a strangely mysterious way. That means uncanny. Okay, so the rest of the words are known to you, right? So as per the context, if you see, look at option D here. A useful definition for anger can be found in Aristotle, which is also the starting point for an established Western tradition of reflection, right? Here, anger is a response to significant damage to something of someone who cares about to have inflicted wrongfully. Yeah, so that fits the context. Now, look at the next one. We have a lot of vocab, right? We have a lot of vocab this year. Contextual vocab, especially. Anyway, look at the meanings for the options first. Conglomeration means a gathering of something or someone. Okay, conglomeration is coming together, a collection of different things. Okay, you know what is armies, and annihilate is to destroy something. Okay, annihilate is when you try to destroy something. Okay, congregation is also a gathering, and objectively rejects. And socialism is a political system of collective ownership. Okay, if I say socialism, that refers to a political system of collective ownership. Now look at option D here. Okay, look at the fit here. Some philosophers have used a community of bees as a transparent metaphor for modern societies. In the hive, they argue about each bee works for its own personal gain. Every profession has its own vulnerabilities, and everyone exploits the passions of others. So D fits good here. So we can go with that. And now we have one more conversation. Actually, this is the first time we are having such a you know uh, s- sorry, I missed a question here. So this is D. I'm sorry. This is D. Uh, So this is B. Let's look at the 34th question. So I guess you know pretty much all the options here. Vistas is a pleasing view. Okay, Vistas is a pleasing view, and it definitely fits the context here. Look at this. In the hothouse, climate of social media. Sorry. Uh, I'm sorry. I'm just a bit exhausted. It's not C. Yeah, in the hothouse atmosphere of social media, you're filled with envy when you scroll through photos of exotic vistas, a pleasant, that is a pleasing view. Okay, exotic vistas. It, okay, exotic vacations and gleaming houses, but you reassure yourself that only superficial people want these things. Your humble home is all that you want. Superficial are shallow people, okay, who are not deep. Right, so B fits the context here. If you go for the excitement of social media, climate, or madness, okay, all of these things they don't fit in the context. Okay, so now we have a conversation type of RC here, right? This is the first time we are actually having this, right? It's been introduced only this year, but I think it's not too difficult. We can decipher the inference here. We can draw the inferences based on the information given. Okay, the host refers to a logic gate. What is the input and output of this? Okay, so here we are discussing about Nile, right? Nile and the civilization, the ancient Egypt, how it formed around the river Nile, and why only that particular place has been chosen. What is the greatness of this river, and how it became convenient for the people to establish a dynasty that lasted for 3,000 years. Right? They're actually I think even we are still in our 2000s, but it lasted for 3,000 years. So, what are the factors that are being discussed here? Right, the environmental data, how river is very linear, okay, and how it can be estimated, unlike other rivers, how Nile could be estimated and how it could be useful for people to cultivate crops, do agriculture, have surplus, and then urbanize themselves with other professions, right? So here the input is environmental data, okay, and the output is the administrative action, obviously because of the environmental data they have collected, how it's always deserts out there, but there is only one river which is you know very linear and it can be calculated. Because of that the administrative convenience was possible and the administrative action was possible. So input would be our environmental data and output would be it's not prayers or sacrifices or not agriculture or not just nanometer, right? Now, why was geographical confinement beneficial to the Central Egyptian government? Look at this. Yeah, in the Nile Valley, there is nowhere to go. The geographical confinement gave the government immense agency. They could tax with 100% efficiency because they knew exactly how much land was fertile. So, because there was only desert and nothing else, it restricted the population to a narrow observable corridor, okay, facilitating administrative oversight for the movements. Now what was the purpose of the nilometer? The purpose of the nilometer was to measure the riverine levels to predict agricultural yields and its taxes, right? So it's given here. Nilometer was used to water and health officials forecast quality and feminine abundance. Right, it's clearly mentioned there. Next, the term agency with respect to the governments. With respect to the government refers to the government's ability to exert power and organize resources within its territory. That is what it refers to. year was significantly lower than that of the previous year, what logical conclusion would the Egyptian bureaucracy arrive at? They should immediately increase the volume of grain exports. Now, why would they export when they know that their agriculture wouldn't be as plentiful as the last year? Now, food reserves would we need to managed strictly to prevent famine. Yes, now this is a logical conclusion. Obviously, with less water, less harvest would come to hand, and they need to manage their food resources. The quantum of arable land would remain unchanged. No, arable land is something where fertile land where agriculture could be done, right? Even this is wrong because obviously less water, less land available, right? Less land could be used for agriculture. Tax revenue for the coming year would likely increase. No, it would likely decrease, right? Next, in the conversation, what does the term lenient archery imply about the Nile's role in Egypt? Now, that implies that it served as a singular vital challenge, okay, for all movement and survival in the region. That's what it implies. Now, let's come to parajumbles. Okay, let's come to parajumbles. Now, look at this. So, if you look at statement one, in established companies, putting extra hours is usually way to go ahead. Elon Musk once said that no one ever changed the world on a 40-hour week. They are less likely to be promoted too. Okay, right? So, this could be the starting sentence if you look at all the other sentences. Uh, So, in the first sentence, he is discussing about the 40-hour week, right? So, in the fourth sentence, the same is continued. The discussion about the 40 hour is being continued. The 9 to 5 is still alive. A new survey of labor free data finds out that world's adult employees. And so, after one, we can get four here, right? After one, we can have four. They are acting as a logical pair, right? Now, look at three. How long people actually work is not the same as how long they ought to. Jobs, incomes, and cultural norms vary so widely that there is no right answer. There are also other ways to approach this question. Now, what is the question? Question is how long people actually work, right? So, 2 and 3 also make a logical pair here. So, you can go with 1, 4, 2, 3, right? Now, look at this sentence. Look at 42. So, mm, look at sentence 3. China's birth rates fell for the fourth consecutive year and sunk to a record low. Now, this is the starting sentence. Okay, because a news article is being presented. That is the starting sentence. Right? Then, so what is the government doing? Obviously, when birth rates are being discussed, immediately the attention falls on government. Despite the government's rolling out a state of incentives to boost it, the country's birth rate fell to 5.63 per thousand people. Right? At the same time, its death rate rose to 8.4 over 1000 people. Now, obviously, 4 and 2 they make a logical pair because birth rate and immediately death rate are being discussed. Now, faced with an aging population and sluggish economy, Beijing proposes to encourage more young people to marry and have children. So that is like a concluding sentence. It acts like a concluding sentence. It can either be a starting sentence or a concluding sentence, but we have a more appealing starting sentence for this, that is China's birth rate fell for the fourth consecutive. So that is why we are going with 3 as a starting sentence and we have 1 as our concluding sentence. Next here. Uh, okay, so see, after one, okay, one is talking about, okay, so here look at this. One is talking about during the last 150 years the world production of food has increased for two main reasons, right? Now the two main reasons are being discussed in 3 and 2, right? They are being discussed in 3 and 2. Okay, so which one is the first one? New lands is one factor. At the same time, medical care, right? Various branches of science and particular medical science has helped to eliminate and lessen the effects of many diseases, right? So at the same time is the phrase which is showing us that this is the second sentence, right? So two reasons: first reason three, second reason is two. So one, three, two, they form a logical chain. Right, look at the fourth one. The relentless growth of world population over the last 150 to 200 years was only possible because more and more food and other items of consumption became available. Now this is talking about food production, which is mentioned in statement 1. So this can be our introductory sentence. So the order would be 4, 1, 3 and 2, right? Yeah, nice, that was easy one. Next, yeah, so there is a possible answer here. See, 3 obviously would become the starting sentence because pandemics are expected to occur more often and become more deadly because of climate change, globalization, and billions of livestock we raise, as well as wild animals whose habits we have diminished. Now, look at statement 1. There is a health expert who is saying something, and on that premise, the next sentence is being built in statement 2. Okay, look at sentence 1. It's going to be less of a freak biological occurrence and more like hurricanes, which are increasing and becoming more devastating, say health experts. And it is hard to predict which pathogen could launch the next global health crisis, right? And 4 is talking about a new idea here. A manufactured pathogen is also a danger due to advances in medical technology and AI. Okay, so see, there is a simple trick here. Whenever you are finding an odd sentence or a sentence that is introducing a new idea which is not related to any of the, I mean, which is not like the continuation of the first 3 sentences, it's like an odd one out, you can put it in the last, because it might be possible that this particular parajumble is being picked from a passage where the next idea is being introduced. So you can put it at last whenever a new idea is being introduced, because there might be continuation in that particular paragraph. Okay. So we can go with 3, 1, 2, 4. Last one. Okay, look at last one. Look at 2 and 4. 3 of Sienna Rose's jazz infused soul songs are in the viral top 50, and the most popular and dreamy ballad titled Into Blue has been played more than 5 million times. These two are human made songs. Okay, these two are made by humans. Now, then we are talking about AI. AI made music, right? Look at option for the most look at the sentence 1. But streaming service Deezer, which has developed tools to tackle AI music, points out that many of our albums on the platform are flagged as computer generated. Now, Deezer is a streaming service, okay, that has developed tools to tackle this AI music. But many of them point out that in her albums, the platform, okay, on that platform, many of them are AI generated. That is, they are facing those allegations. Now, why? Look closer and you will see the indications of an AI artist. Okay, sentence 3 expands on that. Okay, Deezer is saying that they are being flagged. They are being seen as someone who publish the AI generated music on their platform. And for that, the explanation is being given in statement 3. Look closer, you'll find indications of AI artists, like how, such as they have no social media presence or no videos or improbable number of songs released in a short space of time. So these are the indications that it might be an AI but not an actual person, right? So on 1, 3 is being built. So 1 and 3, they become a logical pair. 2 and 4, they become a logical pair. So because but is being introduced and the information is being presented, first we'll have 2 and 4 and then we'll have 1 and 3. Okay, so hope you guys understood what we have discussed so far until now. If you have any doubts, you can always reach out to us. Uh, Hope you learned something from this session. Thank you for watching the video, guys. Have a good day.